Hey guys, welcome to the Commander Lounge. Today I got for you guys a nice, flavorful / maybe competitive Commander deck. I don't know if it's really competitive. I'm just hoping that it can compete with other decks. This is my I Love Gold King Macar, the Gold Cursed Commander deck tech. This deck is mainly to balance on a tightrope between very flavorful with the gold and bling bling theme, and also be able to synergize through either mega ramping to win through an X spell, or synergize through sacrificing artifacts for value and winning through sacrificing artifacts, or even winning for having enough treasures. I'm pretty sure you guys know the card I'm already talking about, but we'll talk about it later when we get to it. So yeah, this deck utilizes gold and treasures to do all kinds of synergy, and there's a whole bunch of... I try to fit a good amount of golden cards in it to keep the deck flavorful and functional at the same time. So let's see if I did a decent job. You guys let me know if I don't. I'm sure you will. So King Macar, the Gold Curse, is a 2 black, 2 colorless for a 2/3 human legendary creature with Inspired. Now, if you guys don't remember the Inspired ability, with King Macar, whenever he untaps, I can exile a target creature, and if I do, I put down one of these guys, one of these gold guys. So yeah, it's pretty good. It generates value, and you get rid of creatures, generate more value. So we want to use and abuse the Inspired ability through this deck, and I will show you how I do that in a second. So let's get into the lands first. So we start out with the utility lands. We got Reliquary Tower, because we want no maximum hand size is always good. Strip Mine, it's always good to get rid of problem lands. Ghost Quarter, always good to get rid of problem lands again. Ancient Tomb, it's a mega ramp deck. We want every ramp piece we can get. Myriad Landscape, same thing. Well, it doesn't do the same thing, but it ramps. Buried Ruin is really important in this deck. I think minus the creatures. I could be wrong. Minus the creatures, I think we have 35 to 36 artifacts in the deck. So it's important to get back our combo pieces and stuff like that. Phyrexia's Core, it's just a nice sacrifice and artifact outlet. I mean, it only gains us 1 life, which isn't crazy relevant in Commander. But it's just a good sacrifice outlet if I need to generate value off of sacrificing artifacts. Next, actually, this card is not supposed to be in here. Nykthos Shrine to Nyx is actually doesn't synergize well with this deck because we run so many artifacts. This card is supposed to be Cabal Coffers. I actually have one coming in the mail as we speak, but I didn't want to wait to make the video for another week. I want to make it now. So this is supposed to be Cabal Coffers. If you guys don't know what Cabal Coffers does, you pay 2 colorless and tap it, and you add a swamp for each swamp you control. So it's a nice way to make a ramp also. Alright, now we get into Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, just a great card, especially if you're running Cabal Coffers. You want Urborg, Tomb of Yawgmoth, great combo piece. Turns all your colorless utility lands into swamps, so it makes sure Cabal Coffers goes for a lot. Plus, early game, it can fix your mana well. Make sure you don't have too many colorlesses. Next is Barrenmoor, just good to have cycle land. Late game, you draw a land you don't want. You can discard instead, and hope for a better card. Same thing with Desert of the Glorified for 1 extra. Next is Bojuka Bog. This is a staple in black decks. If you're running black, you should have this card in your deck. Every Commander deck, I think, uses the graveyard. Most of the Commander decks utilizes graveyards as a good resource because of regrowth effects, reanimation effects, flashback effects, the usual. It's just good to be able to bog that out when you need to. Alright, next we have 23 swamps, I believe. And that's all the rest of the lands. So now, because we're relying heavily on King Macar to pump out a bunch of gold to mega ramp us or get our synergies going, get a bunch of artifacts out for our synergistic cards to work, we really heavily rely on him, so we have to protect him. So this card gives him Shroud, so he can't be targeted, but we can't target it also, so it's important we have some equipments that actually combo really well with King Macar's ability, and we'll get into them in a second. Make sure you equip those before you equip the Shroud. This is easier because you can move it back and forth from creature to creature for no cost, which is nice. Swiftfoot Boots is better because it can just give it hexproof. We can put the other combo equipment on when we get the chance. Whisper Silk Cloak, unfortunately, has the drawback of Shroud, where I have to make sure we equip smart, make sure we can get the combo piece on before we Shroud it up. But it's also good early game to get it on him, just to be able to make him unblockable and be able to ensure that we trigger Inspired if we don't have any of our pieces to help trigger Inspire easier without attacking. So this kind of helps us do that. So the other way we trigger Inspired instead of attacking is crewing, because it's super important. Like, honestly, Vehicles isn't really good in many commander decks, but it's really good here because of the Inspired mechanic. So yeah, and Skyskiff is gold, so it's flavorful. Enjoy the flavor, guys. So yeah, it's a flying crew one. I made sure all the vehicles were able to be crewed up by just King Macar himself. He didn't have to rely on other creatures, because we don't really rely on many other creatures except King Macar. Shadowed Caravel, I'm not even going to worry about what he does. He's there so I could tap King Macar. Smuggler's Copter, however, we will talk about because it's really good. 2 mana, 3/3, crew 1. Flying, and whenever it attacks, I may draw a card. If I do, discard a card. So it helps me get rid of cards I don't really need and try to hope for I get something better. You know, try to dig into the pieces you need. Sleek Schooner, once again, we don't have to talk about him too much. He just is a way to tap down King Macar. Now, Mobile Garrison, we will talk about, though, because he's 3/4, 3/4, crew 2, and whenever it attacks, I may untap another target artifact or creature you control. So, in one turn, I can tap King Macar, attack him with this, trigger the ability when it attacks, and untap him right away using his inspiration ability that turn, which is huge, which allows me to crew it up again afterwards. So this one essentially will give me 2 pops in the matter of, you know, the matter of the rotation of a turn in itself instead of just 1. Next is Renegade Freighter. If you guys know, this was a limited staple. This card was a house in Sealed and Draft. If you opened it, you first pick it. It was great. But it's a crew thing. Same thing with Untethered Express. At least they made this one an uncommon. Powerhouse. Great card. But, you know, in here, it's just here to tap King Macar down. And this is like, I feel like this is like King Macar's, like, crib edition. Like, you guys are looking in his crib right now. He's like, check out my garage, guys. Because check out this sweet golden vehicle. We don't care what it does. We just need King Macar to take a ride every once in a while. Same thing with Oval Chase Dragster. We don't care about what it does. We just need the crew. And last one is Dust Legion Dreadnought. He's got a pirate. He owns a pirate ship. It's awesome. Okay, now our sweet combo piece with our crew. Why do we like crewing also? We like to also put Umbral Mantle on Mr. King Macar also, because it helps him untap in a turn. So if we have a ton of mana, we can dump a ton of mana into it to actually crew him up into Dusk Legion Dreadnought. Let's say these two are out. So we crew him up, pay 3, untap him, crew him up again. When we untap him the first time, we trigger Inspired, and then we'll just trigger Inspired over and over again. We'll keep on exiling creatures and getting gold for as much mana we can put into it in increments of 3, which is sweet. Now, Sword of the Perons is pretty much like Umbral Mantle, except it's 4 cost. It's a little bit more expensive to equip and cast, but it still does the 3 tap or untap creature. So we don't worry about the abilities, except for the last one not second to last one, where you untap Mr. King Macar. Next is Stronic Resonator. If we can't get Sword of the Perons or Umbral Mantle, Stronic Resonator is sweet because on upkeep, when we get our Inspired ability, or whenever we triggered an Inspired ability, we can pay 2 and tap it and copy it. Exile 2 creatures, get 2 gold. It's just value. Alright, now on to Paradox Engine. This card is super broken, and that's needless to say that it is super broken in here also. I have a lot of mana rocks, and that's pretty good to be able to cast a spell and untap all your mana rocks and keep floating more mana and stuff like that. That's what this card does. It just goes off. It's a combo piece. It's one of those cards you'll probably tutor for at some point in the game. It's a powerhouse. Great card. Now into our ramp package. We got Soul Ring, which is, it's Soul Ring. You guys know what Soul Ring does. Next, Mana Vault. Taps for 3. Great card. Wayfarer's Bauble. Great card. Just regrowth in mono black. Thought Vessel is sweet because it also comes with a no maximum hand size while it ramps you, which is sweet. Mind Stone is pretty cool because late game we can sacrifice it, maybe trigger an ability and while we sacrifice it, and draw a card. So it's nice. It's ramp, late game card advantage. Burnished Heart, I have to include in any non-green deck because it's explosive vegetation on a stick. Plus, it's an artifact creature that could trigger sacrificing artifact value. So I like that. Next, Pristine Talisman. We got all the bling in this deck. We try to put all the bling we can. All the gold and all the bling is in this deck. So, add 1 mana pool and also you gain a life. Worn Power Stone. It's blingy, so we're running it. Enters battlefield, taps. It's a little slow, but it's whatever. Next, also in the ramp package, is Inspiring Statuary. Now, guys, I've been waiting to play this in a deck, and this is where it needs to be. You know, it's an artifact, so it's great. Fits the theme. All my non-artifact spells you cast have improvise, which that's huge for your whatchamacallit, for your like X ability spells, for your like fireball effects and stuff like that. So instead of sacrificing these guys for mana, they turn into mana rocks where you can just tap them. They're just a whole bunch of little like one, you know, tap for 1 mana. And plus, with the gold thing, gold's a little different than treasure because you have to tap to sacrifice the treasure. So you can't do that after you use it for improvise. But gold you can tap it and you can sacrifice it. So there'll be like their little soul rings, except the 1 mana is going to actually have a color you want. So I thought that was a pretty sweet combo, so I shared it with you guys. I hope you enjoyed. And plus, look, they're gold. Deal with it. Alright, next Solemn Simulacrum. Just great in any non-green commander deck in my eyes. Just super value, and it's really good because we like sacrificing artifacts, so we can kind of dictate when we get to draw that card sometimes. So I like that. It ramps, it replaces itself, it's solid. Guardian, Golden Guardian, it may not look like a ramper, but when I do the whole fight ability, and when it dies, I flip it over, and plus it says Golden Guardian, so it's themed right. It turns into a nice little ramp where it adds 2 mana of any one color to your mana pool, so it adds 2 black for me. And then I can create more golems, and they're artifacts, which is important because that's more sacrifice fodder that I could have. And this is probably one of the most important cards in the deck, Clan Ironworks. This card is a house, generating super value by sacrificing an artifact to add 2 to your mana pool. Now no longer does your treasure and gold only give you 1 mana, but they give you 2 generic instead. Which is sweet. It's really good, and there's a lot of good combo pieces. If you're tutoring up multiple cards in a turn, which you'll see a card that does that, this is one of the cards you get if you don't already have it out. Horn of Greed, it follows the theme of gold, treasure, greed. It's there. It's a nice little group hug card, though. People will like you in the beginning for playing this. Next is Hoarder's Greed. Once again, flavorful. More greed. This is a card that I actually didn't even know existed, and then when I read it, I was like, this actually seems like a really fun card. It's you lose 2 life, you draw 2 cards, then clash with an opponent. If you guys don't know what clash is, it's when you pick an opponent, you guys reveal the top cards of your library. The card with the most converted mana cost wins the clash battle. And if I win the clash battle, I repeat this process. I wonder how many times I could trigger this. I don't know if this is the greatest deck to trigger this multiple times. Like, I'm starting to think about, like, my Reanimator decks, like, putting this in it, just to draw a ton of cards. I mean, once again, it's a lucky kind of thing. It's a luck kind of thing with this card, but it's fun. It seems really fun. I like that. Next is Treasure Keeper. It's flavorful. It keeps treasure. And when it dies, which, you know, I like sacrificing artifacts, so he's an artifact creature that I can sacrifice. I reveal, like, top cards in my library until I reveal something with converted mana cost 3 or less, and I put that card, cast it without paying its mana cost. And then I put the rest on the bottom in any random order. So it's pretty cool. It's kind of like card advantage, you know. Next is Greed. Greed is probably one of the biggest flavor cards for this deck. I wish I had the one of him puking out gold coins, but I don't. But this one's decent, I guess. But it's, you know, it's not Phyrexian Arena, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's you know, you pay 1, pay 2 life, draw a card. We can do this a bunch of times, especially since we're mega ramping. Just draw a ton of cards, go crazy. Next is the Immortal Sun. It's golden. This is why we're playing it. Plus, it does everything. Keeps people from activating Planeswalkers. Haha, Planeswalker decks. It's a Phyrexian Arena pretty much, except you don't take damage, which is insane. And then spells I cast 1 less, and then creature I control gets bigger. It slices, it dices. It's a staple in any commander deck. This card should be more expensive than it is, I think. Now, out of the card advantage, this is kind of card advantage too. We got the Tutor package. Just because we got so many different combo pieces to trigger inspiration a bunch, and we want our win conditions, and we want to win the game. We want to search up the cards we want when we want it. I'm not usually a fan of Tutor, but I feel like when I have this many moving pieces, I kind of need it because I can't put a lot of the same cards in the deck and make sure that it works all together. I felt like there were some pieces I need to actually just tutor up. So that's why I run Diabolic Tutor. Just grab anything you want. Dark Petition does the same thing. If you have spell mastery triggers, you get a ritual out of it, which is nice. Dark Ritual out of it. And then onto the removal package, we got Crook of Condemnation. It's an artifact. It removes graveyards. We need to do that. I think that thing's gold. He's wearing gold. Flavorful. Mark it down. But, you know, it's a good way to hose graveyards. So why not? Next is another great card for the flavor of the deck. It's Guild. This was, I believe this was in the same set as King Macar. No, it wasn't. I'm sorry. I lied to you guys. But anyways, it does what pretty much King Macar's his inspired triggered ability does, except in sorcery form, which is pretty sweet. And it's a Golden Pegasus. Enjoy. Next is Golden Demise. It says gold in it, so I'm playing it. It's not the most optimized card I'd want, but there's gold in it, and it's shinny. I like shinny cards. But yeah, it just kills a bunch of creatures. If I have the City's Blessing, it doesn't hurt any of my little guys. We don't have too many little guys though. Now these are all the mass removals. We don't run too many Wraths, but we have Oblivion Stone just in case. Get rid of everything. I mean, at some point you can even Oblivion Stone to win the game if you have enough value out to trigger a bunch of stuff. Crazy shenanigans. Perilous Vault, however, doesn't do that, but sometimes we just need to exile everything because it gets too crazy. So we run Perilous Vault for that reason. Next is Golden Urn. Golden Urn is one of those cards that you're like, I don't really want this in the deck, but it's golden, so we have it. I mean, it's nice, I guess. If I can play on turn 1, it's pretty sweet because eventually I could get a lot of counters and gain a bunch of life, but it's golden, so we run it. Dead Man's Chest is another one. It's got gold in it. Because this is pretty much a non-bow with my general, because this only triggers off of creatures dying. But hopefully a better gold card replaces it soon, because it just exile cards from the top of a person's graveyard. How many cards? I mean, I don't even really think it matters. I just like the art, and it's flavorful. It's Dead Man's Chest. I don't know. It's whatever. This is one of those cards, as soon as I can replace it, I'm going to. Great Merchant of Asphodel. Usually in mono black decks, this card is a powerhouse. Unfortunately, in this deck, it's not as good. But because there are gold coins falling out of his backpack, we're running it. But, that being said, no matter what, Great Merchant of Asphodel, as a common, comes with a lot of value. And it deserves to be in the deck. It'll deal a little damage. He's a golden dude. Let's do this. Alright, now into the gold matters, but what else matters? The treasure, because there's gold in the treasure. So we run Prying Blade, which is 1 for equip 2, for equip creature gets +1/+0. Whenever it deals damage to a player, create a treasure token. So, this will help us get treasures. Treasure Map will also do that. We pay 1 to tap it. It's 2 mana, pay 1 to tap it to scry 1. Put a landmark counter on it. Then when there are 3 or more landmark counters on it, remove those counters and transform it and put out 3 treasure tokens. And it turns into a nice little treasure. It turns into a land, but then you can sacrifice your other treasure to draw a card. So it turns into ramp and card advantage, kind of. So it's pretty sweet. That's why we run it. We're all about that treasure. Next is Dire Fleet Hoarder. Black and 1 colors for 2/1. When it dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. Not exciting, but we want all the artifacts and treasure. Gleaming Barrier is sweet in this deck. It's pretty much the same thing as the Hoarder, except it's an artifact wall with Defender 0/4. It's pretty sweet though because there's a lot of ways in this deck. There's a good amount of ways to sacrifice artifacts, so it's easier to trigger this ability than the last card I showed you. So we get treasures when we want them. Next is Heartless Pillage. Not the most exciting card, but with my raid ability, it creates a treasure, which this is another card I'm not too sure about keeping in here. But I was just thinking, let's just pack all the cards that says treasure that's in black. So that's what we did. So if target opponent discards 2 cards, that could be a thing. Maybe not, but maybe. I don't know. Ruthless Knave, however, is a great card. Black and 2 colors for a 3/2 Orc Pirate. You pay black and 2 colors, sacrifice a creature, create 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens. That's pretty sweet, especially combo it with like the wall. Sacrifice the wall, get a treasure, and then get 2 more treasures. Get 3 treasures out of that net. Like, that's really good. And then I can sacrifice 3 treasures to draw a card. So once again, using the treasures for card advantage is pretty sweet, but we kind of want to hold on to them. And you'll see why in a second. Pitiless Plunderer, black and 3 mana for 1/4. Whenever another creature you control dies, create colorless treasure artifact token with sacrifice this card. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. It's sweet because, when I sacrifice a creature, maybe I get a treasure off that creature. Maybe I'm sacrificing for that guy that makes 3 treasures. And then this also triggers, and I get another treasure. Just get all the treasures. All the treasures, guys. Contract Killing. That's an expensive destroy target creature, but guess what? It creates 2 colorless treasure artifact tokens, so we're playing it. And it's flavorful. Why not? It makes treasure. Next to our artifact matter section, this is why we are making treasures and making treasures in gold. Disciple of the Vault, 1 mana for a 1/1. Whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from your play, you may have target opponent lose 1 life. So every time we sacrifice these guys, it's going to be triggering this guy over and over and over again. So we're going to do that hopefully a lot. Next is Syndicate Trafficker, a nice little sacrifice artifact outlet. And it puts a 1/1 counter on it. Also gives it indestructibility, so it protects it from a wrath. Next is Underhanded Design. Pretty much whenever I make gold or treasure, I can pay 1, and if I do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It's whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, but it's basically whenever gold or treasure, or I cast any of my artifacts. But I can also pay black and 1 in a pinch, sacrifice it to destroy target creature, activate this ability only if you control 2 or more artifacts. So hopefully I have enough gold and treasure to do that. Next is Defiant Salvager. This card is great. Unfortunately, it's only sorcery speed sacrifice, but once again, I can sacrifice all my artifacts to just make this guy huge and trigger all of my abilities with artifact sacrificing. Next is Herald of Anguish. I mainly put it in here because I had improvise. I could get out really early. It's really nice to make, at my end set, make each opponent discard a card, get them off of card advantage. It's flying 5/5, and it also has a sacrifice and artifact outlet on it, which is great. And it also does that to potentially kill a creature. So that's why we run it. Next is Summoning Station. Summoning Station is probably one of the more fun cards with your artifact synergies. And that is, you tap to put 2/2 colorless pincher creature token into play. But whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from play, you may untap Summoning Station. Now guys, even though I'm creating tokens, those tokens essentially do hit the graveyard, even though they disappear as soon as they hit the graveyard. It counts as hitting the graveyard. So Summoning Station will untap because of sacrificing your gold and treasures. So you pump out a bunch of treasures, sacrifice it, and then make an army of 2/2 pinchers, whatever those are. Alright guys, you guys saw the treasure in it. You guys knew this was coming. It's Revels and Riches. I want to win with this card. Why not? It's 5 mana for enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. You guys know what it does. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. So that's one way we win the game. Another way we win the game is by having Marionette Mastery and having it fabricate 3, mainly putting it on it to make it a, what is it, a 4/7? Make it a 4/7. And whenever an artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to Marionette's Mastery. So I make a ton of golden treasures, bring this out, and then just sack it all and just deal a ton of damage to everybody. Well, it doesn't deal it to everybody at first, but it's gonna kill everybody if you play it right. Okay, now to our X spells. Why we want to do improvise and all that stuff, and why we want the mega ramp. Profane Command's great because it has options. You're mainly going to use it for the target player loses X life, but you can return a creature, you can kill a creature, and you can also give creatures fear, which is sweet. Next is Torment of Hailfire, the other thing. This one will kill a lot of people if you're mega ramping. It is 2 black X, repeat the following processes X times. Each opponent either loses 3 life unless they sacrifice non-land permanent or discard a card. So they're going to be you're going to put this at a really big number that will probably lose them the game usually. You lose everybody the game if you can get that off. It's a really good card. And the other one is Exsanguinate. I know it seems like a boring card, but we're mega ramping and we need Exsanguinate. Exsanguinate just wins games, especially with what we're doing. It's a big fireball to everybody, and like it just says, okay, good game, guys. All right, so our last card. I considered this, even though this is a tutor, I consider it a win condition because there's a chance that we, get all these artifacts out and we're just done. We don't have any payout, and we can't get our card advantages going. We can't get anything going, and we're just empty. We have a lot of gold, nothing to do with it. But if we do have Diabolic Revelation, we can just refill our hand, grab Reliquary Tower, play Reliquary Tower. We have no maximum hand size. We can just have a bunch of cards, or we can, combo off right there on the spot if we have enough mana to get our one thing and do our one thing. It's very flexible. It's huge. I think it's a perfect addition to this deck. This was another late addition that I put in. I just thought it was really important to be able to tutor up a bunch of cards through an X spell. So I consider it a win condition in itself because it will win you the game if you tutor for enough cards. Alright guys, that was my King Macar, the Gold Cursed. I love gold! episode, Commander Deck Tech. I hope you enjoyed it. If I'm missing out on some gold cards, you guys let me know. If you guys hate the deck, let me know. If you guys love the deck, let me know. If you guys like this video, let me know. I will have a link in the description below to the deck list. And yeah, guys, I hope you guys have a good day. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe. And take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.